Well, let's start with injuries, Neil. I noticed at the weekend you had a couple of second half substitutions. Were they routines, or are there a few more knocks in the camp?
Well, to be honest with you, Alex Lacey, I plan to sort of, because of Ben Turner's suspension, I plan to sort of give him an hour anyway and bring Connell on. But he did feel a little bit of stiffness in his back at half time. So it was quite an easy one, sort of 10 minutes into the second half, to get Connell warm and get him on. So that one worked out, as it would have done anyway. Enzio got a sort of cut, a gash from somebody's stud to his face. And again, Enzio was one that was down for an hour for me, and it gave me the opportunity to throw Carl on. So them two are both fine. They both joined in training today. So, yeah, little niggles, but nothing serious.
What about Calvin Miller? Made his debut for you. What do you think of his performance?
I was really, really pleased. Stockport are a good team with good players. So, him and Ruben once or twice in the first half got a couple of little things wrong, but they were only minor. And it was a game where we never really got our fullbacks massively galloping on and getting to the byline and getting crosses in. So different games need different things, but defensively very, very sound. And considering he likes to play winger probably more than left back, I thought it was a very solid performance.
You've kind of touched on it there, but with your latest two additions, you've got some depth to your squad. Does it give you the option to really change your formations and style now, do you feel?
Yeah, I think the formations we've got, we can play two up, with the likes of Jimmy, Kyle Wooten, now with Innie and Elijah. You've got four forwards that can play up in a two-man strike pairing. With Ruben in as a 10, we could play 4-2-3-1 with Ruben, Jim in midfield. We could play with a three-man midfield. So we've got all sorts of options. We just know that our centre-backs and our full-backs are really important to the way we play, as far as they get a lot of ball and they start a lot of attacks. So we wanted to try and bring a little bit more strength there.
Another game off on Tuesday night. I know you've been asked this before, but I just wonder whether your opinion might have changed. Is it time to introduce a sort of lull in games, a stop, or do you think you should keep going?
I think if we was now to try and introduce a stop in the games, I think you're making it very difficult to complete the season. I think the Premier League and the EFL are going to complete their seasons. So, the National League need to strive to complete their seasons. And, I'm not going to lie, I am concerned, because at the moment it seems all too easy. Not too easy, that's probably the wrong word, but it seems all too common to have games called off. And, I don't know, obviously we don't do testing at our level, whereas the EFL now doing it twice a week. I don't know what we can bring in to try and make sure that we limit the amount of games that get called off. Since this one's been called off, we've tried 2 or 3 different options to try and rearrange a game to put it in now, because we know that we're running out of midweeks as the season goes on now, and we know that there might be more cases. So and they've all come, failed miserably to try and get teams to play, and we'd have been travelling to them, so we'd have been the team put out. But we just can't seem to get any sort of rhythm going. I think we've played 2 league games since the 8th of December, and we should have played 6 in that 6 weeks period, and it's getting very frustrating for us, because we're really ready to try and get rolling and see what we can do.
You've just stolen my stat, but yours is a bit better. I was going to say 1 since mid-December, 1 league game, but 2 since the 8th is very startling. Just kind of maybe expand on the answer. You say you're frustrated. How frustrated are the players? Can you see that out on the training field, or are they still going 100% like you used to seeing them?
No, they're going 100%. I don't think they ever let that dip, but you come in on a Monday morning and you've got a really tough away game to Yeovil, so your mindset's almost in game mode, and you know that the manager's going to get you out on that pitch, and we're going to go through shape work, and we're going to work at how we're going to break them down and how we're going to stop them and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden the manager turns up and says, the game's off, and the other game that we tried to arrange have said no as well, so we've now got no game till Saturday. And you can see it, you see the shoulders drop, you can see the deflation, and then you tweak what you're going to do in training, because obviously you're not going to go out and do 11v11 match prep stuff when you haven't got a game till the end of the week. So It's getting tough. I'm not going to lie. I've always said we're very, very fortunate to be able to go to work, and there's more important things than football at the moment. We know that, but while we're here, we're desperate to play games, and it's getting frustrating.
Just finally, before I let you go, draw for the FA Trophy has been made. You're going to go to Havant and Waterlooville. The balls seem to keep coming for an away tie, but what are your thoughts on your first reactions on that?
Well, my first reaction is, I think when I looked at our schedule as of late, I think we had something like originally 9 out of 13 games away from home, which is ridiculous. And normally in any sort of season that has a bit of continuity, you end up with home away, and you end up with them games where there's a nice balance to them. But obviously now with rearranged games being put in wherever you can get them, everything seems to be away from home for us. So we're going through a tough period, and then Havant is now away from home. So the groundsmen will be happy because they get to keep our pitch safe. But it's another long journey, and it is what it is, and we'll go and do our best.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Neil, just on the postponements, and I know you've said something needs to be introduced because it seems a little bit too common to call these games off. Do the National League now need to introduce a threshold by which squads who have problems with COVID have to have before a game can be called off?
Difficult, isn't it? You've got one that gives you the best chance of getting games on, and then the second one is what's the safest thing for everybody, with no sort of data to tell you that the rest of the squad are okay. So if you go back to our game against Kings Lynn in the FA Cup that we had to forfeit, we had a couple of cases. The rest of the squad came back on the tests as negative. So we felt in one way that we were safe to go and play that game, but then we couldn't guarantee since the test that somebody had trained with a group and might have spread it further infection, and we couldn't guarantee. And it's the same with anybody. If you've got one case in your group and you're not testing, then there's no guarantee that it hasn't got to 2, 3 and 4. So the safest thing to do at that point would be to look out for the opposition with what's going on. I don't know what can be done. I've said it before, the only real way of doing this properly is testing regularly to make sure that you're aware of what's in your camp and what's not. But obviously there's a financial implication to that.
Do you worry with the varying degrees of schedules and the disparity that's now beginning to emerge? Do you worry that may force the league to look at whether the league can continue? Of
course, I think it's natural to worry about it, but the EFL aren't going to stop, the Premier League aren't going to stop, so the National League really need to have a long look, and if we're the extension of the EFL, then we need to act like we're the extension of the EFL. And my concern is that we're desperately trying, and I'm sure many other clubs are, but it's does everybody really want to commit to this and try and make it happen and get through it and finish the season, and it needs everybody to do that to be able to get to the end.
Do you think there are teams who would be willing to go till the end of the season?
I'd like to think so. I mean, you put players on contracts, it's a season of football. I mean, it's you've got to look at the integrity of the competition, and you'd like to believe that everybody should want to try and finish what we started. We already started late, waiting for fans to come in, which I get it, financial reasons, but it's already put us on the back foot. And then the fact that the EFL have played half their games now at the halfway point, and some of our teams are on 12, 13 is it's a big catch-up mission.
And do you think testing should become mandatory? And if so, how do clubs afford it? I mean, that's obviously the big issue, isn't it?
I think there's loads of issues. I mean, I'm sure everyone's asking questions about funding and where that's going at the moment. So I think there's loads and loads of issues, and the sooner the league and the CEOs and the chairmans all discuss what's going on with either funding or how we're going to get through this season, the better, because just sort of trying to manage our way through, and every week when there's a full fixture list only having one game isn't what's needed. We need to try and find solutions to do it right, do it safely, make sure we're not putting anyone at risk, but try and get these games played.
Do you feel that's happening quick enough?
I don't know if there's a meeting, whether there's one this week. I know that there should be a meeting scheduled at some point with CEOs and the chairman. So hopefully there'll be some news coming. But it is getting hard. Even when we haven't got games, I look to see who's playing and what other games there are, and you're just seeing postponed under them all. And whether that's because of FA Trophy games that got postponed on Saturday or not, full fixture lists are turning into one game at best.
How frustrating has it been in that respect then to try and gain some momentum?
Really tough, because the other thing is, I look at this week and know we've got a tough game at Yeovil and then the league leaders on Saturday. So you look at our game against Stockport and you pick the team, and then you look at what you're going to need for the Yeovil game. So then you pick your team at Stockport and you work out who to give a rest to at Yeovil, and then who might then come back into the team for the Torquay game, and the way you might want to tackle the game and the shape and the system and the key attributes of players. And then all of a sudden you have the game called off. So do you then go into Saturday's game and pick the same team you'd have picked at Yeovil, or because then players were left out of Saturday for that reason? It's a minefield. It's not easy.
And how have the players taken the news? Because I imagine after winning such a great result at Stockport on the weekend, the immediate thing is you want the next game to come round as quickly as possible, don't you? Because you're riding the crest of a wave.
They're devastated. When I told them this morning, just before training, their shoulders shrunk, and they walked off with their heads down for the warm up, and the start of the warm up then becomes God, we've got 5 more days till our next game, and players get up for the game, the adrenaline gets pumping, right, let's get to work, let's find a way how we're going to win on Tuesday night, and then all of a sudden it's not there. So it's hard, and like I say, we're very privileged, we're very lucky, we know that, but it's also very frustrating.
How frustrating is it as a manager? I know the players would be devastated, but how frustrating is it for yourself?
Really tough, because we were willing to play another team that sort of suggested they would be willing to play us on Friday. When Yeovil gave us the news, we said yes to that team straight away, and now that team can't play us. I sat there last night for an hour and a half watching that team, doing my homework, putting together how we're going to beat them, and then all of a sudden this morning they can't play us, or whatever the reason is, and it's frustrating because you're trying to. At short notice we were willing to play a game without me having prepped for that game like I would normally. So then I put the work in to prep for that game, to find out that game's not happening the following morning. So it is frustrating. We just want to play games, and we'll play Saturday, Tuesday for the rest of the season if we have to try and play the games and get where we want to try and go. But at the moment, none of it's in our control.
But I suppose the longer impact of this is the more games that are postponed, and this is obviously through no fault of your own, but you're going to have a schedule at some point, if this continues, where you may well have to play Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And that doesn't seem fair.
Well, we're not far away from it, but I don't think it's just going to be us. I mean, I know we've gone through in the Cup, and people can look at that and say, oh, you shot yourself in the foot, but we just want to win games of football and not worry about the consequences, worry about them further down the line. But I think whatever happens, trying to rearrange games is a nightmare, because you then say to the team, whether it's Yeovil, you say, right, when can we fit you in? But Yeovil have got 4 other games to fit in, and then the team that that you could play on a certain date, but so could the other team who they cancelled before you, and they have to go first, and it's difficult. And Jason constantly comes to me and says, well, if we put them in this date, we'll have 6 away games on the trot, and surely that's not right. And then I say, well, what's right about any of this? So let's just put the games in and play them, and if we have 6 away games on the trot, it's going to be a really hard six games, because normally a structured season would be where you're home and away quite regularly and consistently, and obviously because of what's gone on, and it's a one-off season, we hope, you just got to deal with whatever. So I'm just saying, put them in wherever you can put them in. Let's not try and be picky, because we haven't really got enough flexibility to be picky.
But do you not fear it compromises the integrity of the league somewhat?
Well, not really. If you're going to play the games, it's difficult to go away and win games of football in any league. So if you're going to play these games, even if you have 5 or 6 away games, you have to get your mind around it and grit your teeth and get on, because at some point you might have 2 or 3 home games on the trot. So it'll even itself out. Everyone's got to play 44 games. Everyone's got the same amount of points to play for. Let's just try and do it. It's not ideal. None of it's ideal. No fans is ideal. none of it works. Let's just really, really graft and come together and try and get these games done and have an end result to a season that we've all worked really, really hard so far to get to this point.
I mean, if you look at the EFL, for instance, I mean, obviously the testing is in place there, but even if teams are only having 1 or 2 cases in COVID and the rest of the team is okay, those games go ahead. I think Lincoln City, for instance, just down the road, they had a recent case of COVID, a couple of cases of COVID, but the games still went ahead. Is that what should be happening?
Well, again, the point of that is 1 or 2 cases testing after maybe 1 or 2 showed symptoms or tested positive, testing the rest of the squad and finding out that they're all okay gives you the peace of mind to know you're safe to play that game. If you're not testing and you have 1 or 2 cases, you've got no idea. So therefore, the blanket approach is, well, if you're not testing, which we're not in our league, therefore self-isolate everyone for 10 days. And then that's not just 1 fixture, that might be 3 fixtures that go, by the wayside because of it. So, like I said before, and I said it when we had it October, when we said it, if you're not testing, it's going to be a recipe for disaster.
Moving on to the football then, how pleased were you with the team's performance on Saturday on what looked to be quite a testing pitch?
Yeah, it was all right. I thought they did a great job to get the game on. We're all desperate to play. 2 strong teams, I looked at their starting lineup and, there was 8 or 9 that, have started in the league and start quite regularly in the league for them. So, and it was good. I wanted to play, Stockport away was probably the toughest draw we could have had, and I wanted to see how players who I wanted to have a look and find out something about, Eli up top with Jimmy in a partnership and different people in different positions. I wanted to find out about them and what a game to find out. And, we rode our luck a little bit on. They broke on us a few times in the second half and had some good chances, probably from our own doing. But by and large, the rest of the performance was pretty good. To go away to Stockport and win a game of football in any competition is hard.
And I think Nigel Clough said on Friday that he was going to come and watch Jimmy Knowles on Saturday. What is the latest situation there? Does that give any indication that they're going to call him back, or is it just purely a scouting mission from what you're aware of?
Nigel rang me to ask if he'd be playing on Friday, so I said yes, and he said, okay, we've got no game. I haven't really had a chance to have a look at Jimmy. I just think that's a manager being thorough and committed to his club to find out what he's got in his ranks, what's coming through. He's got a player out there on loan, and he might, might even be where he's looking at his recruitment next season. Who knows? I'm not going to read into it and say, right, that's it. He's looking to call Jimmy back just because Jimmy scored a goal. He's perfectly within his rights to watch his player and see how he does. And there's always clauses in contracts when you've got players on loan that the club can call them back. But I don't foresee that happening. But who knows?
Sam Graham, it was his last game on Saturday. What can you tell us now? Has there been any update on that?
Yeah, Sam's gone back to Sheffield. Sheffield, like I said before, the discussions we'd had was that they were, looking. We talked about game time, and I just said, that how well Connell, Ben, how highly regard Alex, all them kind of things, that it was tough for Sam, and we was trying to get him back to his best, but at the moment the game time was a little bit limited, and Sheffield made that call to take him back, and actually played really, really well on Saturday. So I was delighted for him. We're looking now, we're just making sure our lists are there. We don't want to jump in and bring a centre half in and have him not even getting on the bench if all our centre halves are fit. So we're just looking if to put a list together, so if we need to move, we can move quick.
Do you expect some business done this week? Because I know you just mentioned Alex has got a slight problem with his back.
No, Alex is fine. He trained today, so he would have been fit to play tomorrow. But now we've not got the game tomorrow. It's poor old Ben Turner's just the agony of not being eligible. He's just dragging, because he should have been back now playing. Had we played our games, he'd have been back for the Torquay game, and instead he's got 2 more games to go still, and I think training's killing him at the moment. So yeah, it's we will be doing some business. One of the deals that we thought we had over the line sort of fell apart at the last minute, and we've had to do a little bit of a reset on that, and but we will go back into the market for that position.
The left back deal that you'd had struck is over now.
Yeah, it looks like it's it was all sort of, we thought it was all signed, sealed and delivered, which it virtually was, but it was a last minute sort of change of heart from the host club, and we've got to, it's their player, we've got to adjust to that now.
How frustrating was that?
Yeah, very, because the lad was in training with us and played in a friendly match behind closed doors, and we really liked him, and he's a good character. We thought he'd do great for us, but obviously now we've back to the drawing board a little bit, but we're working on that.
I suppose in a way is the postponement. I know you probably would have liked to have played, but it now gives you extra time to prepare for what is a huge game at the weekend. Is that sort of like the sort of inverted commas the blessing?
Nah, not at all. Not at all. We was ready to play Yeovil away, Torquay at home, Solihull away, Weymouth away. That's our mindset. No, we wanted to play. There's not one blessing to not playing. We're desperate to play. We feel like the squad's in a great place and is ready for a glut of games. And once again, we feel like we've been halted in our tracks a little bit. So we'll have a week to prepare for Torquay, but I was very confident we'd have got 2, 3, 4 high-level performances.
Lovely. Cheers, mate.
Well, hi, Neil. Just a few quick ones from me. With the postponements and how everything's looking at the moment, is there a genuine concern that the league might once again be decided without all of the fixtures necessarily being played?
I don't know. There's concerns about lots of things. I do think we need to get our house in order as a league and sort of knuckle down, come together. You can't have. If you look at the EFL, you haven't got half the team shouting, let's finish the season, and half the team shouting, let's carry on. And we need to make sure in our leagues that that's the case as well, that we're all striving to put everything in place to make sure that the fixtures go ahead whenever it's safe to do so, and that we get this season finished. And, I'd be disappointed if there's clubs that don't feel that way and don't want to do that, because that's what we started the season for, and that's what we should commit to.
And you've mentioned about trying to keep the players and the players' heads up. You said coming into training this morning, told the news, and they had the slumped shoulders and they were a little bit down in training. Just how do you keep spirits up in times like this?
It's hard. You've got to pick and choose your days to get the work done that's match relative, which will sort of back end of the week, Thursday, Friday, we'll really start to ramp that up. And then work out what you can get from Monday and Tuesday. So today was trying to lift the boys and get a sweat on and get recovery into some and get the others, back into training mode. Tomorrow we'll try and get a physical element out of the day, and then we'll work Thursday and Friday ready to try and put in a high level of performance on Saturday.
And just finally, with the FA Trophy 5th round draw being made with the trip to Havant and Waterlooville, at what point do you feel that a trip to Wembley could be on the cards?
I think you think that now. We're more than good enough within this competition. There's no Man Uniteds or Man Cities in this competition. The National League is the strongest league in the competition, and so we should feel that if we're at it in every game, we've got a great chance of going into the later stages. And boys want to play football, they want to win games, so not going to moan about the travelling or the fact it's away from home, just going to, at the moment, look forward to trying to play a game of football.